This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth with breaking news. 10 people are dead after a gunman live streamed a mass shooting at a Buffalo supermarket. The shooter cites the Great Replacement theory and New York's heavy gun laws in his manifesto, and this is already leading to calls for censorship of social media online. You got guys like Tucker Carlson already finding himself in the crosshairs with hit pieces like this. Yes, Tucker Carlson shares the blame for the Buffalo supermarket attack. We see here Pat King is also trending on Twitter right now because he has a video out showing that he shares the same views and the ideas and believes in this great replacement theory. And you may know that Pat King attached himself to the Freedom Convoy and the freedom movement in general in Canada. So this now is going to be used to paint a negative light on the freedom movement in Canada, suggesting that people are dangerous white supremacists. We see here the police are now probing this conspiracy's role into the Buffalo shooting. And in fact, it's not just the police, guys. The FBI are looking into this, and CSIS is currently looking into this as well. We're also going to look at the fact that this white supremacist gunman previously was hospitalized after he threatened to shoot up his school. Accused Buffalo shooter Peyton Gendron was hospitalized and underwent a mental health evaluation back in 2021 after he threatened to shoot his high school classmates. We'll also take a quick look at this Reddit post, which is interesting. It points out some of the contradictions in the manifesto that has been going around online. As you can see here, there were portions that were copy and pasted directly from Brenton Tarrant's manifesto. This is the guy who killed a number of people in New Zealand in a mass shooting there. And you know, when we talk about the idea of white supremacy and this great replacement theory, and the media is going over this so much right now, why were things like this ignored if this is truly the issue here? Things like the black supremacist who killed 6 people at a Christmas parade. The media was still focused on Kyle Rittenhouse instead. And let's not forget the recent case here with the black supremacist Frank James, who was suspected in a subway shooting, who got arrested, and this barely made any news because it didn't play into the race card in the way that the media wants it to, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, who could forget when the parents caught the FBI in a plot to force their mentally ill son to become a right-wing terrorist? The parents of a severely mentally disabled man are speaking out on how the FBI groomed him as a right-wing terrorist, knowing he's a paranoid schizophrenic. Here we see the man accused of a right-wing bomb plot is mentally ill and was entrapped, according to his family. And this is something that's been going on for a long time, not only in the United States, but in Canada as well. You may recall I put this one out way back in 2016, breaking, terrorist cell exposed as Canadian government operation. This was the so-called foiled terror plot of the Canada Day bombers, and I followed that up with proof that CSIS and the RCMP are the real terrorists in this video, Canada Day bomb plot exposed. And as I said, there's more instances. I pointed out this foiled terror plot in the intelligence community when I exposed what was going on with the Via Rail so-called foiled terror plot. And I also exposed the proof that Canada is purposefully importing terror in this video, the Edmonton attack exposed. And finally, I put this one out way back in 2013, guys, conditioning Canadians for the war on terror. And in it, I showed how this man here was a CSIS agent who infiltrated the infamous Toronto 18 and was able to foil that terror plot as well. And interestingly enough, The National just covered this Buffalo case with this video, confronting extremism in the wake of Buffalo mass shooting. And look who it is. It's this guy. They got him listed here as professor of public safety for Seneca College. Maybe hoping you'll forget that 16 years ago, these guys did a piece together talking about how he infiltrated the Toronto 18 as a CSIS agent. And of course, maybe they don't want you to remember that because the comment section has been turned off here, interestingly enough, guys. So we're going to talk about All of this and much, much more in this video. But before we do, guys, I'd ask that you check me out right here at pressfortruth.ca/donate. Here is where you can do a one-time donation with PayPal. You can do Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies by clicking here. You can join me on Subscribestar. It's a great Patreon alternative since I've recently been kicked off of Patreon. You can also sign up here too for a monthly reoccurring contribution. Any amount is greatly appreciated, guys. If you're Canadian, it's easy to do an e-transfer to Dan at pressfortruth.ca, or if you guys like to keep things old school like I do, you can send cash or checks or equipment or simply just words of encouragement to my P.O. Box, guys. Links for all of this are located in the description below. Once again, thank you to everybody who does support my efforts to bring you this important information. All right, so let's dive into this, guys. We're going to take a look at this Zero Hard Hedge article, and then we'll move on to all the other talking points that I had lined up for today. Peyton Gendron, 18, was arraigned before Buffalo court as a judge has him on first-degree murder charges after killing 10 people in Buffalo, New York supermarket. He was revoked bail. He told the judge he understands the charges. They're, of course, investigating the mass shooting as a racially motivated hate crime, police said. 11 of the 13 shooting victims at the Tops Friendly Markets were black. They're calling this supermarket attack a pure evil. And according to the New York Times, investigators are examining this manifesto that is believed to be written by the shooter and was posted online. Searching through the 180-page hate-filled manifesto, the 18-year-old writes about the risks of white Americans being replaced by people of color, also known as the, quote, replacement theory. A senior law enforcement official told NBC News that they're aware of this manifesto, allegedly written by the suspect, and they're working to confirm that he is, in fact, the author. In the uncorroborated manifesto circulating on the internet, he says that he was radicalized on 4chan at the beginning of the virus pandemic in early 2020, and the document layout is very similar to Brenton Tarrant, the white supremacist mass shooter who killed 51 people and injured 40 others in New Zealand at a mosque in 2019. So here you can see it's a direct copy and paste from the New Zealand shooter's manifesto, where he changes a name here or there, from Angela Merkel to George Soros. Here's another example of him copying and pasting, him or whoever this is, from copying and pasting directly from the New Zealand shooter's manifesto. Within this text, he purportedly describes himself as a populist, but you can call me an ethno-nationalist, eco-fascist national socialist if you want. He says he planned the shooting based on the highest percentage and high density of blacks that can be found near him. Additionally, in the manifesto, it goes on to point out that he chose Buffalo because of its strict gun laws. New York State, the author said, has very heavy gun laws, so it would ease me to know that any legally armed civilian was only limited to 10-round magazines and cucked firearms. So he knows that the heavy gun laws there are going to make it so that nobody's going to be able to defend themselves there, which is why he chose it, likely referring to New York's laws restricting magazines to only 10 rounds and laws that limit the purchase of certain types of semi-automatic rifles. New York State residents also need to obtain a permit, which can take months, if not years, to buy a pistol under the provisions of the SAFE Act. Now, here's where things get very, very interesting. He rhetorically asks himself, won't your attack result in calls for the removal of gun rights in the United States? And he answers himself, yes, that is the plan all along. You said you would fight to protect your rights in the Constitution. Soon will come the time. So he is essentially trying to invoke a civil war and to bring up, obviously the Second Amendment debate is currently going to be rehashed in the United States. They're going to be discussing this over the next coming weeks. But it seems that his intention was just that, to force it to a point of people having to protect their Second Amendment rights because of all-out civil war, essentially. New York has cucked gun laws, he says. Assault-style weapons and high-capacity magazines are illegal for civilians to own, thus lowering threats from law-abiding citizens. The individual wrote, adding that he obtained a Bushmaster XM15. Since I live in New York, I had to buy a cucked version of this before illegally modifying it, he says. And aside from the manifesto that investigators are still combing through to confirm its authenticity, the Buffalo News said that police in 2021 were notified when Gentron threatened violence to others at the school, at his local high school. A school official reported that this very troubled young man made statements indicating that he wanted to do a shooting, either at a graduation ceremony or sometime after, and a law enforcement official familiar with the case told the local paper. And that's what we were going to look at with this one, that he was previously hospitalized, and after threatening his own school, the 18-year-old accused of killing 10 people and wounded 3 others at the Top supermarket in Buffalo on Saturday was investigated by state police last year after making threatening comments to classmates, Buffalo Police Commissioner said. A school official reported that this very troubled young man, as we already seen, had made statements indicating he would do a shooting either at a ceremony or after. Following their investigation, he was referred to a mental health evaluation and counseling. He went to a local hospital and was there for a day and a half being evaluated and then released. His racist, hate-filled 180-page publication, allegedly penned by the teen, has circulated on social media in the wake of the deadly shooting, which authorities are investigating as a racially motivated hate crime. There was nothing picked up in the state police intelligence, nothing that was picked up by the FBI intelligence. Nobody called in any complaint, and that is absolute bogus nonsense, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, when does the FBI just, not take something like this very, very seriously? And this begs the question, is this more of a MIHOP or a LIHOP type situation that we may be dealing with here? Did they make this happen on purpose, or did they simply let it happen on purpose so that they could clamp down on gun rights and they could essentially block free speech online with new censorship bills as well? I wanted to point out this Reddit post that shows you some of the inconsistencies and contradictions in the manifesto. Now take it for what it is, grain of salt. I mean, it's not really confirmed yet that this is in fact the manifesto, and this is just one Redditor's opinion, but I found it interesting still, so I wanted to share it with you. It says here, the first notable thing about the manifesto that is filled with countless contradictions. For example, the shooter talks extensively about how Jewish people are the problem in the world and that they should all be killed, but then he states that people from the Levant region of the world are white and are good to go in his white utopia. Additionally, he labels anyone a Jew if they act like one, regardless of their race, like Austin Lloyd. He, maybe they, stated he is a white supremacist, bigot, racist, xenophobe, and Nazi that hates capitalism and the elites, but simultaneously claims that he's an ethnic nationalist, eco-fascist, national socialist that thinks communism is good. So this is just to name a few of the contradictions here. The second notable thing is that the shooter is likely extreme anarchist who wants to create a racial and political war within the United States. His statements about being an authoritative leftist, hating conservatism, and liking communism in his youth are interesting, along with his statements about liking neo-Nazism and calling for his, quote, people to fight the radical left. These statements are nothing more than trigger statements that divide us all, again, against each other, statements that he or they know will get the mainstream media's interest without reading the whole manifesto. When he states his ultimate goal is to, quote, to agitate the political enemies of my people into action, to cause them to overextend their hand and experience the eventual and inevitable backlash as a result, to incite violence, retaliation, and further divide between the European people and the replacers currently occupying European soil. So it becomes apparent that he wants people to be divided and fight each other regardless of race, political affiliation, ideology, or religion. So he, or maybe they, wants to start a civil war. Don't fall for this trap. He wants us to turn against each other, and ultimately that's what the mainstream media wants as well. We're all one people, and it's because of disgusting individuals like this shooter that we are divided. And indeed, this is what's going on in the divide. This is why it's troubling with what's happening with Pat King here, and whether you think he's some sort of a government plant or maybe he's just an idiot. Either way, this is now being used against the Canadian freedom movement to suggest that it's filled with so-called dangerous white supremacists. As we see in this article here, what's the white replacement theory? Police probe conspiracy's role in Buffalo shooting. They look into what is this great replacement theory. They look into the conspiracy theory's origins. They ask who are its adherents. Is this theory making any inroads? But then we get to the point where they say, who's talking up this theory online? At least one of the prominent figures involved in the convoy that occupied the Canadian capital of Ottawa for 3 weeks earlier this year has spoken about the conspiracy theory. Pat King, who has been denied bail and faces multiple charges for his role in the convoy, now widely referred to by police and lawmakers as an occupation, could be seen repeating racist conspiracy theories in a video clip posted on Twitter. In the video, King said there's an endgame. It's called the depopulation of the Caucasian race, or the Anglo-Saxon, and that's what the goal is, he says, to depopulate the Anglo-Saxon race because they are the ones with the strongest bloodlines, he continued. It's a depopulation of race. Okay, that's what they want to do. He then talked about men with the first names Ahmed and Mohammed, who he claimed are trying to not only infiltrate by flooding with refugees, he's going to infiltrate the education system to manipulate it. So there is, quote, less procreation, which leads to less white people, or, you know, Anglo-Saxon. Let's say Anglo-Saxon because when I say white, all the Antifa guys call up the race card. Well, it's not just Antifa, Pat King. The media is also calling up the race card, and in fact, since you've attached yourself to this freedom movement, they are now painting the picture that everyone who's involved with the freedom movement is potentially dangerous. We got, you know, a crazy hit piece on Tucker Carlson here because of his views. And look, you know, like I said, whether you think this guy's a plant or just an idiot, I must say, as much as I, you know, don't like the things he says, I believe he should have the right to say it. Just like I believe Tucker Carlson should have the right to say these things. And as we see now, they are moving into a call for heavy censorship online. Politicians have viewed tragedies and crises as opportunities not to be wasted. Most recently, Samantha Power, Biden's administrator for the United States Agency of International Development, told ABC News that they did not want to waste the war in Ukraine as a way for pushing green initiatives. She explained to George Stephanopoulos that you should never let a crisis go to waste. Well, Kathleen Hochul adopted the same approach to the massacre in Buffalo in renewing calls for censorship on the internet. While many drew the connection between the shooting and the need for greater gun control measures, Hochul notably went further to demand the curtailment of free speech protections. Speaking later at a church, she pledged to silence the voices of hatred and racism and white supremacy all over the internet. They need to be called out. And leaders, elected officials from both parties need to stand up to this moment and call it out and shame it. And to make sure these people crawl back into their holes and stay there. This can't be a part of our mainstream dialogue here in the United States. Leaders have a responsibility to call it out. We're dealing with on a gun side, but also on the social media side. And the combination of the wild access to guns, unfettered, we need national laws to deal with this, as well as unfettered sharing of hate information on the internet. This is a lethal combination. We saw that on display here just hours ago yesterday. So this is what this is leading towards, guys. Obviously a pushback on gun rights in the United States, but also a call for censorship on social media. And when it comes to the Second Amendment, isn't it interesting that if they do start attacking the Second Amendment, they'll essentially be doing what he was hoping they would do, according to his manifesto, because he tried to incite this, you know, civil war to bring about the final end game battle. But again, guys, this is currently fitting into the mainstream narrative, which is why they're able to attack guys like Tucker and King, but you know, none of this was making it into the mainstream narrative because it didn't play into the agenda, right? And if you guys haven't seen these videos, all links to all of this stuff are all going to be located in the description below, guys. Again, I want you to do your own due diligence and look into this. But we can't discount these cases where the FBI, RCMP, CSIS, CIA, criminal elements within the intelligence communities have purposefully coerced and shaped these individuals into being able to carry out these things. As we've seen, I showed you, I've proven that over and over and over again with these videos. I strongly want to encourage you to check it out. But it seems, you know, if this guy was, as they say, held in a hospital for a day and a half, being mentally evaluated after saying he's going to shoot up his school, this is not something the FBI just ignores and turns a blind eye to. So this is something I just wanted to bring to your attention today, guys. Nothing is ever as it seems when you're taking it from the mainstream media. So I wanted to bring all this to your attention, guys. Let me just make sure I'm not forgetting anything or leaving anything out. Oh yeah, well, I mean, the Toronto 18 that was infiltrated by a CSIS agent here, who went on the National 16 years ago to do this interview, is now talking about this from the perspective of apparently, what is this, professor of public safety at Seneca College. Again, I don't think they want you to remember that he had a role in all of this. And now they're using him as a propaganda arm to you know, carry out their own narrative, which, as we've seen, is going to be about censoring the internet and gun control. But, you know, we got to ask the real tough questions, like, what type of SSRI drugs was this kid on? You know, often when you look into these things, time and time again, it turns out that they were on some sort of antidepressants that alters their state, their consciousness, and their moods and their desires. You couple that with some corrupt FBI agent who understands that you may be a troubled individual who might be willing and able to pull the trigger, and you have a toxic soup there where they can coerce, shape, manipulate, form, mold, and allow these things to happen so that they can bring in strict gun laws and strict censorship bills on the internet. So just wanted to bring all this important stuff to your attention today, guys. Once again, if you do appreciate my efforts to bring you this info, please don't forget to check me out here at pressfortruth.ca/donate. Once again, I want to thank you, everybody who does. I'm 100% completely beholden to you, the viewer. I do not monetize my YouTube channel, even though I can. I do not want to accept Google money. I would much rather, as I said, be beholden directly to you, the viewers. It's a mutual, voluntary contract here between the two of us. I give you free information, and if you appreciate that, I would ask that you please, once again, check me out at pressfortruth.ca/donate. And that's all for today, guys. This is a developing story. You know, this is still happening right now, so I'll be doing some updates as this continues to unfold, but just wanted to bring some of these points to your attention today, guys, because, as I said, if you're just getting your news from the mainstream media, you're going to be heavily clouded with serious misinformation. That's all for today, guys. Once again, I want to thank you for tuning in. Please click that thumbs up button. Share this video with all your friends and family who you think need to see it the most. And stay tuned, my friends. We're going to have more video reports coming soon. This is Dan Dix reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.